I would request Dr. Amrish Srivastava for his views in the present. Welcome you, sir.
Well, very good afternoon. I am Amrish Srivastava. My respected Professor Shukla, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Pandit Ravi Shankar University, all academician guests, colleagues, mental health experts. It's indeed a great pleasure to be amongst people who make difference to the life of millions and millions of students, those who built this country and the rest of the world. My purpose of interacting with you is very simple, is that we need to inculcate human habits amongst our students in order to save them from variety of distress and challenges that they are facing. And this sounds very simple, but it's enormously complex, particularly in the socio-cultural era that we are living in. When and how this has become complex, we cannot really pinpoint. But gradually, our problems have immensely increased in not only in India, but in rest of the world. So, when I retired from Canada from professorial post in psychiatry, I decided to move to our country, and we started thinking about the problem of youth, because entire professional career I have worked with students, universities, early, say people between 18 to 30 years of age in the field of common and complex mental disorder, in implementation of program research and academia. When we came here, I had the opportunity to visit number of universities and meet scholars, vice chancellors, teachers, faculties, students, etc. And what we concluded is that nobody really knows the answer to the problem of students that they are going through. When I asked my own colleagues in India, there are 10,000 psychiatrists in our country. They say we also don't have a specific answer like we have for women and mental health, like we have for geriatric mental health, etc., etc. The subject of student mental health is not that well researched, not that well discussed, not much written about, and nobody really talks about it. And we all know the problem which is there in front of all of us. That is the time I decided that with a group of psychiatrists we will do something. Let me share some of my slides, and maybe it will be better. Is it seen? Can you see the screen, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So चिंता से चिंतन तक मनुष्य की जितनी भी समस्याएं हम अगर उन्हें एक लाइन में रखना चाहें तो हम इसमें बड़े आसानी से कह सकते हैं कि जब आप किसी डॉक्टर से मिलते हैं या सोशल साइंटिस्ट से मिलते हैं और कुछ कहना चाहते हैं अपनी चिंताओं के बारे में या अपने परिवार के लोगों की चिंताओं के बारे में या कुछ ऐसी बातें जो आपको तकलीफ देती हैं, तो जितने भी इलाज से हम गुजरते हैं, हमारा जो अंततोगत्वा जो जिस बिंदु पर हम पहुंचते हैं वो है कॉग्निटिव साइंसेस, यानी चिंतन का विषय। विश्वविद्यालयों की बात चल रही है, इसलिए मैंने ये बात छेड़नी चाहिए कि चिंतन एक ऐसा विषय है जिसे पठन पाठन के माध्यम से इनकलकेट किया जाना चाहिए। मैंने अपनी बात यहीं से शुरू की है और यहीं से समाप्त करना चाहूँगा जब मैं अपने 2-3 सबमिशन जो बताना चाहता हूँ वो कह लूँगा। देखिए, अबाउट द स्टूडेंट्स वी ऑलवेज कोट द रेट ऑफ सुसाइड। Agreed, there are about 13 to 14,000 suicide every year in our country, and about 10 times of this number they attempt suicide. But if you see the data, there is only 30% student suicide due to exam failure, which is so much being discussed. What does it tell us? It tells us that there are a number of other factors to which we are not able to focus our attention, and probably suicide related to exam is very easy to discuss without knowing the psychological profile of young people and the students about what they are going through, what they are suffering from. So we'll introduce the topic and talk about some of the challenges of students, teachers, institutions. We'll discuss few briefly the policies, the programs in the place, and then I will talk about what needs to be done and what can be done, and also what we are doing. So mental health is also defined as something which is for academic excellence. All of you know that a student can be brilliant, can have all the facilities in the world, can have best of the best university and teachers, but if the mental health is not in a right frame of mind, his academic pursuit suffers. Not only that, those people who have mental health problems and we treat those problems or we make the life easy, their academic performance improves. So my first submission is that mental health exists for students, a kit for academic excellence. Whether it is university in a urban area or it is a student in the rural phase, both important. It's not because of number only. Well, population of America is about 30-35 million, and around same is the number of people who are they should be a student in our country. If we see the information available to us, about 50% of severe mental disorders make their first appearance before the age of 25. And about 75% take their first symptom appears somewhere in the age range of 17 and 20. So it is very important to address the issue of students. It is not only that. Childhood mental disorder is well described phenomena. Number of children suffer from mental disorders. How mental disorder develops, we are not much going to talk about it at present, but about 7 to 8% of children are known to suffer from any kind of mental disorder, including number of disability as well. So these are some of the crucial reasons why we must address issue of students in a very special way. They are a special section of the population, they are dear to us, and they are, if we don't address these issues, we are not going to have robust, righteous individuals or citizens. And of course, each one of them want to succeed. Success is a neurobiological phenomena, as you all know. Number of factors count, but the most important factor is the cognitive development and various other mental health issues which is related. So if you have mental health right, your chances of success become much brighter, and if your mental health suffers or mental well-being is poor, your chances of success are not that high. So let's ponder some of the challenges that this section of people they suffer. I must confess that there is a very high treatment gap, particularly in the rural part of our country. It's about 80 to 85%. What does it mean? It means that about 85 of 100 young students and people do not get any treatment of problems that they are suffering. Well, there is a treatment gap in rest of the world as well, but this is very high number, that despite growth, despite lot of efforts of governments and people bringing more awareness, cutting down stigma, etc., the treatment gap has not gone down. More so, there is very poor identification of psychiatric disorders or mental health issue per se. Poor identification of those conditions which are directly related for causation of mental disorders. They lack mental health education. Now this is a crucial aspect of our problem. Lack of mental health education and lack of mental health literacy. We all are in the business of teaching and learning. But let me ask you, do we expect our students to know anything which we have not taught them or which they have not learned from anywhere? None of the books, courses, curriculum talk about mental health in our country. We are not able to impart psychological sciences or chapters of mind sciences or something about mind and brain or something about intelligence and performance to them at any stage of their career in school or college or university. This is unfortunate, and we will come to this aspect little later. The lack of focus on mental health development like maternal health, childhood health, etc., which is important, there is very little focus, and these are our gross problems. Now, if we see that how many of them are suffering from mental health related issue, let me also tell you that 1 out of every 2 students has one or the other kind of mental health need. For example, some of them suffer from vulnerable state of mind, others develop high risk of developing mental health disorders. Some of them have psychological type of illnesses which is not a psychiatric disorder. But number of students and people suffer from symptoms which does not qualify for a psychiatric disorder. That is not a psychiatric disorder. Those who have a psychiatric disorder are only 17 to 18% of people. This is the Government of India survey which tells us, which is being repeated now, and we will know the exact number. In rest of the world it is 20%. Then there are students and children who suffer from number of medical problems. And there is always a psychological consequence, a fear whether I'll be doing well in the schools, in the college, whether I will pass or I will not pass, whatever will happen to my career. And then some of them are having mental disability. So if we count 50% of students or sometimes more than that need one or the other kind of mental health support, treatment or intervention. This is the conclusion of our own study. This is the conclusion of all international study and number of other studies in our country performed by a range of psychiatrists. Besides focusing on mental disorder, our proposition is that we must focus on risk factors or risk situation or mental health risk which creates these kind of problems. For example, people suffering from loneliness, having academic shortcomings, passing through transition phase, or suffering from hopelessness, loss of desire, loss of motivation. Well, these are the psychological subset of factors which finally culminate into a psychiatric disorder on a spectrum of illness. Our rightful duty would be not only to look for a disorder, but also to look for who is suffering from a distress, who is likely to suffer from a disorder. The major challenge is stigma around this. Everybody calls psychiatrists and mental health experts pagal ka doctor, etc., etc. And therefore, our students and people in society have very negative attitude, problem of persecution, problem of facing denial. They have poor understanding of the subject, their awareness is poor, their access to care is much lesser. There is resource problem, the doctors are not there, the nurses for mental health are not there. Young people anyway have poorer help seeking, they tolerate a lot of things. Then in our society we also have a famous concept that young people don't suffer, but that is also not true. If you see the research data, see around yourself in your society, you will find that young people have equal share of health problems. There are no more those people that you can say, well, aap jawan hain, aapko kuch nahi hoga. So, what are these problems? We can divide these problems are mental health problems and problems of mental well-being. That is, problems like suicide, depression, eating disorder, addiction, internet issues are one of the mental health challenges. But there are problems of well-being like loneliness, loss of trust, loss of faith, hopelessness, inability to connect socially, inability to connect with environment, poor sense of social connectedness, poor spirituality, loss of gratitude, inability to forgive. All these characters are psychological subsets which take shape during the age when these students are in the university. So these are some of the important challenges. No wonder the government of India has done a lot and a lot is being done, but whatever has been done is inadequate because it has been done in bits and pieces. Not very clear policies and programs are in place, though we must appreciate that state governments and central government together have built dozens of facilities. They have come up with legislative changes. They have developed policies and governance. There is some change in mental health education and literacy. But the need for screening and early detection, training capacity, counseling and clinical services are lacking. Similarly, the integration of academia and mental health is also something one must consider as a policy matter. So there is a vast number of programs in state and central government which is spanned by NCERT, by UGC, by Department of Education, and some of them are Department of Health, like Telemanas and the various other programs. You all are more aware about it than myself. But are these enough? Are they based on solid concept? Probably we'll have to think about it. Higher education and institutional measures are something which must be integrated. I think the education must revolve around the concept of mental health, not otherwise. The new national education policy has tried to deal with these to some extent, but has not developed the framework that how this has to be achieved. So what needs to be done? Well, a couple of my thoughts are that education and training is the primary thing, followed by screening and assessment, then research and innovation, and career development and academic support. They all go in a circle, but they are integrated and essential component for any mental health program. Now let us talk about why we are talking about digital in this world. Is digital applicable or innovative for student population? Well, certainly so. There are a number of merits and characteristics. For example, it is safe, it's confidential, its privacy is solid, it's highly economical, and it is universal. You can take it anywhere. It's replicable. Like, for example, there is not much scope between opinion of two doctors as it exists. It's effective, it's replicative, it's innovative, and it gives a sense of empowerment when you hand over a digital device to any individual. When a mobile phone comes to our hand, we know that what we can do. We don't have to depend on anybody. The sense of empowerment because of digital technology is, I think, the most sensitive tool that people have got. And finally, it's communicative. You don't need anything to communicate. The digital mechanism talks to you and talks to others. So in this foundation that we have together built, it is a Section 8 company, non-profit company, which is registered about a year and a half back. And we have certain basic principles for launching student mental health programs. The one is that we believe in sense of empowerment of students. We believe that they are neither physically nor psychologically naive or young, that they cannot think about their own well-being. They do not need as much protection that they always have to ask their parents, should I go to a doctor? When they have fever, they ask their parents. When they have depression, they don't ask their parents. Many times they have depression and other problems, and parents tell them don't talk about it. And therefore, we believe that empowerment is so one thing which is going to help them. How we empower is a very different issue. There could be different thoughts and many types of empowerment. Then self-assessment. That means they can and they are capable of making assessment, making right assessment of their problems. And not only that, they can take decisions. They should be empowered and they should be independent to make a right decision. The whole issue of student mental health must be research-based and culturally innovative. We cannot import bricks and mortar and make a house in India from outside the country. We have every 500 kilometers the culture changes, and therefore whatever intervention, whatever methods of assessment we design must be culturally feasible. It should not be culturally alien. And finally, the digital mechanism will network all these that I have just now discussed. So what we do, we have certain basic fundamentals, activities in which we involve ourselves. The first is education. So we guide people what is mental health education, what kind of courses are possible, how to train the faculties, what kind of training programs are necessary, and if universities want to implement, we advise them on a number of courses. We believe that lessons of mental health must be on first 2 pages of every curriculum book for students. Not only that, they must have facility to understand about mental health in a week, 2 weeks time in the campus of their university. Those teachers who want to know more should have the access and facility for receiving a rightful training. Then comes mental health assessment. That is, how do you come to know who is at a high risk for developing a problem? Because that is crucial. Unless we identify, we cannot define who will need care, who will not. This is followed by our great responsibility of early intervention. Early intervention is most crucial, my dear friends. If the psychiatric disorder intervention becomes late, it gets engrossed into the personality and never you can wipe it out. The third component is that of services, where we have some amount of developed some skills and resources, where we have developed a network of people and they can provide some kind of services. And the carrying out research in student mental health and developing knowledge translation, that means online courses, webinars, books. I myself have developed a series of 12 books for students. It is available on Amazon and you can see that. Or if somebody needs any specific books, I'll be very happy to send that. Mental health education, as I said, is crucial part of our activity. We shout everywhere that, you see, you cannot expect anybody to seek knowledge, to know everything unless you educate. I think this is very important for people working in the educational institution to be sensitive about that. Like you teach geography, social science and psychology, mental health component of education is equally the right of a student. It is not an option today, but it is obligatory to provide and develop logistics for that. Mental health assessment is something which we have taken up very seriously. When we talked about the problem of student to number of educationists, and they told us that they don't know really how to solve the problem, the first thing which occurred to us is how can we assess, how can we screen such a vast population. It's not possible to go into the campus, send experts and do one-to-one trying to find out who is suffering or who is likely to attempt suicide or who is suffering from depression. In that perspective, or even if you have a requisite number of mental health professionals, there is a lot of merit in carrying out screening. Screening means trying to find out people who are fit for early identification so that they can receive early intervention and recover well. When they recover well, their brain recovers. When their brain recovers, number of other things develop better. They read better, they write better, they are better human beings. So, how do we screen them? There is one concept that you look at their problem from one direction, unidimensional screening. For example, you go on internet and say, I want mental health assessment, so you will get number of tests, try to find out you are depressed, try to find out if you have addiction, try to find out if you have anxiety. That's not the philosophy we imbibe to. We believe in multi-dimensional screening. That means we want to look at individual from number of corners. And what we want to look at, what are their challenges and what are their strengths. They may be under stress. They may be having minor depression. But what is their resilience? What is their level of functioning? How much they can cope? Whether they have capacity to cope, whether they have social support, whether they have family support or not. So this is the concept that we have adopted and we are building over it. We focus on symptoms because symptoms represent those group of students who have not developed psychiatric disorder as well as those group of students who have developed a psychiatric disorder. So we focus on symptoms, which then represents the level of risk. Knowing the level of risk is the most crucial thing that we should be sensitive about. Whether they have depression or not doesn't matter. But if they have depression which is having a high risk, that is more important. If somebody has depression and the risk for life is lower, this overall risk is lower, I would not be that worried in that particular case. So for every individual, we should be able to define what is the risk, and we should also be able to define what is the risk for developing a mental health problem. So these are some of the principles that we adopted in our approach, that symptoms of subthreshold problems, that means problems which appear minor or small, are predictive of early symptoms of a disease. They can lead to severe dysfunction, they can lead to suicide attempt, and number of other things that they can develop a diagnosable problem, develop disability, and cause disruption in life. So therefore, it is important to find out who is at risk and who has got symptoms. Two things, which is the principle for carrying out a screening. We know that screening can be carried out by psychological tests, which are well-established process. So here we decided to develop half a dozen tests, psychological tests. A team of psychiatrists worked on it for about 2 years with number of sessions and number of workshops, and content was developed, the scales were developed, we did the pilot study, we did the field trial, we revised the scale, and then finally we brought it into shape. These are evidence-based, experienced, and the findings are from the study which is available and published recently. Some of the publication will be appearing in this month. So there are about total 7 types of tests in the battery which we recommend to use in our system. One is for stress, where we'll measure severity of stress and nature of stress. The second is the group of mental health, in which we measure mental health warning signs, mental health psychopathology, and risk factors. The third group is of mental strength, where we measure the level of resilience and level of function. There is a fourth group, but the research is still going on, so we don't much talk about it. That is knowing the predictors of success and mental health vulnerability. So we will not talk about it at present. We focus on these 3 group of subjects, 3 group of tests. These tests, once they have been digitalized and a student can complete the test, there are algorithms which are based upon clinical guidelines, experience, and the findings of field trial. Thus, we come to know whose requirement is, what is the requirement, what is the level of abnormality. Finally, you get about 7 pages of a PDF report from the system. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete the test. What does this result tell us? It tells us the mean value of level of severity of stress, the kind of symptoms they have, what life events they go through, what is the risk, what is the resilience, and what is the functioning. We also come to know the prevalence of severity and dysfunction. Finally, it tells us automatically who needs to see a counselor, who needs to see a psychiatrist, and who needs to do self-development program. In the study that we conducted in an engineering college in Mumbai, we found that about 6% qualified for meeting a psychiatrist for consultation, whereas about 31% qualified for meeting a counselor, and 63% qualified for training themselves, knowing more about lifestyle, etc. We also tell them that if you have a need to talk, please dial Telemanas, that is a national helpline 14416, or approach the district mental health program, psychiatric department of a medical college, or psychiatrist in independent practice, or even their family doctor for advice. How do we disseminate this mobile app and a web app that we have developed? In the core of distribution are the universities. We have special password protected space in the server which we provide to the universities. So far about 10 to 12 universities have shown interest. Some of them have entered into memorandum of understanding where the work is going on. We give it to them free of cost and request them to use it in the student population with a condition that if they find someone at a higher risk, they should provide help through their counselor and mental health staff. And if they do not have, they should tell us and we would tell them how to organize that. Our second arm of dissemination is working with the government, and the third is through the people at large from social media and internet resources. We have made a smaller attempt. We've gone from state to state and handed it over to the authorities, some places to Honorable Governor, Chief Ministers, etc., to disseminate it in their universities because it's good. We provide them with a password protected system and they can use it, they can see the data if the student has given consent for making the data accessible to the authorities. Now, how do we help, what do we say to the universities what to do? Well, we don't mean that you erect infrastructure for student mental health care. What we tell them is be sensitive, have an administrative will, set it as a priority agenda. We will tell you the model. You have the stakeholders. Funding can be organized internally, externally, or self-paid by the students themselves. It doesn't cost much money. When we calculated, we came to know that even 50 rupees per student per month is too much for student mental health to set up the services. We propose the model where they have choices and options, that all of them are able to participate, whether they are a student, whether the teaching faculty or the parents. It's a responsibility of everyone. No parent should think that it's responsibility of the university, and no university should think it's none of our business. It should be integrative, educative, and available to all. It is interdisciplinary. So this is the kind of framework which we advise. The human resource, as I said, comes from internal resources as well as external resources. The program, which are a special program that you need in the universities, is one, screening and identification. The second, a continuous monitoring of people who have very high risk. They have the right to have access for care, which can be organized by shared model in your city. Then focus on mental health development. For example, doing morning prayers, teaching them yoga, meditation, nutrition, and so on and so forth. The specialized program that the students and universities need, one which is most important, is about career development, academic support, suicide prevention, student with special needs in your institution, and the candidates who have recently undergone treatment. When they return to your institution, you have an obligation to look at them very differently. They are not the same students as anyone else, but they belong to your institution, and you must be sensitive to receive them back in the school and in the colleges. I think I have taken enough time, and I will address any question which comes up. The digital mechanism is here for use for everybody. I am available to discuss and provide guidance, support to any institution and every institution to the best of my capacity. And it's not too late, too bad. It's if anybody comes to know that there is problem, you can treat it much early. If you are not sure, why don't you test? It's scientific, safe, confidential. Screening for mental health condition with an app is a feasibility, and we have developed with a lot of hard work and involvement of number of mental health professionals. I urge all of you to give it a try, to use it and see what happens. Give me your feedback and take it forward. You be the champion and the ambassador for student mental health. Thank you very much, my dear friends. Thank you very much. If there are questions, I will be happy to address.
Sir, can our university collaborate with your foundation?
Yes, a number of universities have developed a memorandum of understanding. That is what we propose. Once MOU is developed, I go there, or I have research officers, they visit, and if university is interested in setting up program, we help them in that. If they are only interested in screening and assessment, we provide them a digital app and tell them to use it. And there are a number of opportunities which open up once we start working together.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So we would surely like to collaborate with your foundation.
No, thank you very much. My pleasure. I will be there sometimes whenever you want me.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Sir, definitely we would like to consider the invitation because our university is highly engaged in land process nowadays. This is why we are not in position to invite you immediately.
No,
But,
whenever.
maybe in the month of August or September.
Yes.
We will definitely interact with you in physical mode. It will be a great opportunity
Yeah.
for our students.
If I happen to come there, I will come and visit.
Sure. And Madam Prabhavati, kindly try to have an MOU with the foundation of Dr. Amresh, because he is really doing some fabulous work, or you can say true social service for the youngsters. So, sir, Madam will be definitely in your, he will be in touch with you.
Thank you. I will call her and talk to her.
In due course, we will definitely sign.
Sure.
And senior person like you, working with a senior person like you, will always be honored.
Thank you very much, sir.
For the university
Thank
and for me in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks everybody for giving me this time and
Thank you,
opportunity.
sir, for a brainstorming session.
Thank you.
Well, all of you for joining this session also.